Hi there, welcome to another episode of 411 Pop Culture. This is your host, Justin Steele. With me today is my good friend, Jon Gallagher. How you doing today, Jon?
Doing all right.
We just finished watching the latest episode of Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 1. And here on 411 Pop Culture, we want to just kind of do a little mini-series as these 6 episodes have their run on HBO for this final season. We just thought we'd talk about each episode, a little bit of what we like, what we don't like, and maybe some minor predictions along the way. I should clarify very much ahead that Jon is far more the expert at Game of Thrones than I am. I very much enjoy the show. I didn't come into it until the end of the 6th season. 6th season had already happened. We were about a month or two away from the 7th season beginning, so I didn't have any of these horrible long waits until the 7th season ended. So we just finally got to watch it. But Jon has read the books. I read the first book, but otherwise I'm pretty much in the dark. I know most of the stuff. I really do enjoy the show. So thanks for joining us. Alright, so let's just get right into it. Jon, did this first episode meet your expectations? Were you disappointed?
I wasn't disappointed. I didn't know really what to expect going into this, because for the most part I've known what to expect reading the books. Like I've had an idea of where it's going. But since they kind of surpassed the books,
went on a different path.
Yeah, my expectations have been more tempered.
For sure. So, I will say from my perspective, I really enjoyed how this first episode came back. I mean, it's the first episode, so you're catching up on things, but they hit a lot of the beats that I was hoping would be hit were. I liked that the beginning of the episode, I feel like they kind of tossed it around a little from viewpoints, but I feel like the main viewpoint was from Arya, and I really enjoyed seeing her reactions as, like, Jon came by, but then the Hound comes by, and then Gendry comes by, and you just see her different reactions, and, I mean, I love all the characters that we're supposed to root for, I really do, even, like, Cersei and all that, but I have to say, I really think that Arya might be my favorite character. Her, Daenerys, or Sansa, I don't know, but I'd be happy with any of them making it to the end. So now, once it kind of got going, did you enjoy, like, the information that was coming out? Did you feel like the episode was fast-paced, or did you feel it dragged a little bit?
I don't think it dragged, but I don't think it was fast-paced. I think it was very much in the way of setting the pieces on the board going forward. Like,
yeah,
it very much was setting up storylines for this season, like how it's going to flow. I mean, it was great seeing all the characters. I think that it was just kind of reacquainting us with where these characters are and the terms of the geography, and it was bringing a lot of characters together that hadn't really seen each other.
Did you like the new opening? I noticed the new opening.
Yes, I really much enjoyed it. I always enjoyed the opening to this show.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed watching it. It's not one I usually skip. But it was nice to see that they completely redid it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know the beginning, I know it well enough, but I definitely noticed right away with the wall, with the big gap in it,
Yes.
I thought, I was like, oh, okay, that's different. They're
Even, like,
definitely acknowledging that.
Even going into, like, the crypts of Winterfell and things like that.
Absolutely.
Really cool.
I have to agree, though. I think that it was pretty, I wouldn't say it was super fast-paced, but for a first episode, bringing back a season, I thought that they hit the majority of the beats that I hoped they would hit throughout the first episode. Starting off with the thing I think most people have been waiting for since the beginning, the first season, is the Stark family reunion.
Yes.
So were you super excited, being such a big fan, to, like, finally get to see that?
I was. It was very nice to see Arya and Jon interact.
Yeah.
They hadn't had any screen time together since the first season.
Well, and I felt her disappointment too when he kind of rode by and he didn't see her, and it's perfectly excusable, but I definitely felt for her where I was like, I know I want you to see him too, I want him to see you too, and it was great. I thought when he saw Bran,
Yes.
and he was kind of like, you're a man, and then Bran becomes all creepy, and he's like, not quite, but it's like this sort of double meaning, like, I'm still, in my teen years, but I'm also the three-eyed raven, and Sansa, I definitely see the influence of Peter Baelish with her sort of cool exterior now, calling everybody's bull and getting right to the point. I was really excited to see Sansa and Tyrion.
Yes.
I thought that was one of my favorite moments because he kind of was like Lady of Winterfell, and I was like, and my wife, technically,
Yes.
which I thought, went really well because I think she had some interesting things to say to him.
Yes. I did enjoy their interaction quite a bit. I did enjoy her kind of insult to him about she always thought he was the cleverest man.
Yeah, that was good.
I think that she was right on the money to call out his trust for Cersei.
Sure.
Like,
well, because we don't know, there are a lot of theories out there in terms of what how the conversation with Cersei fully ended and whether we really got to see how everything that happened. And I am leaning towards more, I guess, there's theories out there that possibly he's getting ready to betray Daenerys for Cersei in some way. I don't believe that as much now. I think he genuinely does think that Cersei is going to help because she's pregnant. But I do think it is quite naive of him, but at the same time, it's his family, and Tyrion always has taken a lot of pride in his family, even if they kind of like didn't for him. And I think like there's always going to be that sort of undercurrent of like hope for him. I will say too that I was excited that at least in this first episode, we finally got to have at least Jon have his heritage revealed. The jig is up, we know the secret. I think he's going to accept it. At first, he, wanted to deny it, but I'm glad that, like, for the second episode, we'll be able to see his reactions. It's going to be the first thing, maybe not the first thing in the episode, but the first thing with Jon. We know he knows. How do you think Daenerys is going to react? Do you think he's going to tell her? Do you think he's going to keep it from her?
I'm very interested in seeing how Daenerys is going to react to this. I don't know,
because that's the other half of it. Because it's a big thing. I mean, it's pretty much her claim to the throne.
That's exactly it. It's her claim to Westeros, is that she's the last surviving Targaryen. And to find out that not only is she not, that her nephew Jon, or Aegon in this case,
right,
is actually alive and is heir to the throne, I think she'll call bullshit, and she won't believe it.
Interesting. I hope that she doesn't, but you're right. I guess like it could very much go that way. I thought it was really touching too. I felt bad. Okay, so Sam tells Jon, and this is, right after the scene where Sam has this sort of charming, his sort of like clumsy charm with Daenerys, and then that scene totally is inverted, and he's like devastated, and you want to like cry for him. And I kept thinking the whole time about how Tyrion warned Daenerys of like the consequences. I'm kind of hoping that Sam, I doubt it for drama's sake, but I'm kind of hoping that Sam is kind of like, this sucks, but my dad was kind of a jerk to me, because I remember his dad was kind of a jerk to him, be like, oh, I can move past this. I get he feels, because the thing that made him the outcast was that he feels things and has emotions for people. But I do hope that, like, he doesn't hold it against Daenerys, only because I love Daenerys. I 100% will understand if he does. And it seems like he's definitely kind of pointing at Jon with it. Hey, would you do the same thing? You've spared people and stuff like that. So... But on a lighter note, what did you think? I know you must have been really excited for the dragons and Jon and Dany getting to ride the dragons and Jon's interaction.
I was excited. It wasn't something that I was really expecting out of the episode at this point. I was more interested in the dragon's interaction with Jon, more than the riding of the dragon.
Drogon's like the main dragon.
Yes, that is
like how he was just staring at him. Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. I got chills with it. I was excited.
It was very interesting. It was very cool. It was very well done.
I will say, jumping off just a little bit more before we continue talking about events in the episode. I noticed a lot of theories on YouTube, and I've watched quite a few of them, and I will say that it seemed like most of what was in the trailer that I remembered right off the bat happened in this episode, so I was glad about that. But I will say that there's a lot of theories out there now that have like been devastated by like, the moment after Cersei and what's the guy? Euron. Cersei and Euron kind of get it on, and she's kind of, he mentions Jaime, and she realizes what her brothers did to her, whether they're right, but in her from her perspective, and she's all teary-eyed, and there's all these theories out there about like how she, that was one of the final moments we were going to see in the series, or that's right when everything's coming to a head, and it's such like, yes, it's an emotional moment for her, but overall in the context of it, it's such a mundane moment. I liked kind of getting to see some of the theories that I'm like, okay, so that's checked, that's not going to happen, or checked, that's not going to happen. But that's the fun of, I enjoy watching those YouTube videos where like people have these theories, but it's also fun that it's like the most simple moment is not being revealed. But what did you think about that whole interaction on the other side of things with Cersei and Euron? And I personally really enjoyed the moment with the siblings, Theon and Yara. What did you think about all that?
It was nice. I wasn't expecting. I honestly thought Yara would have been dead at this point. I think she would. I didn't expect her to be alive.
I'm glad she wasn't dead.
Yes, I was too. It
I
was
really
nice
came to like her as a
see
character.
Theon redeem himself after
Yeah.
his.
And after she hit him, which I get, or the headbutt sort of thing, I kind of was like, I wanted him to be like, even though he still has trouble communicating, I wanted him to be like, okay, but I would have died if I had tried to save you in that moment on the ship when, like, the fire is coming down. And, like, if he had tried, he was going to die in that moment. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, but he did say it. He would have died. So it's good that he waited.
He came back.
But, true to their character, though, I really liked, and it seems to be, to me, in terms of, like, where alliances lie and the sort of discord that might be coming about between like Sansa and Dany and even Cersei and her camp. I liked that of the characters, Theon and Yara, they had the best sort of communication in terms of, you're my queen from him, so I'm going to like do whatever you want. But her response as a good queen was, great, I accept that. But what do you want? Wait a minute. Okay, so this is what you want, though? Okay, fine.
Yes.
I'll give it to you. And I feel like that doesn't happen enough with characters that I love. I get it not happening a lot on the show. There'll be moments where Dany, I wish she had, I don't know that I wish she had done anything different with the Tarleys, but in that moment, there's sometimes where you do wish they would do, like, the nicer thing or the more considerate thing. And I thought that was a nice little moment between the brother and sister. All right, another thing I want to make sure to cover is the interaction between Sansa and Daenerys. I really enjoyed that sort of dynamic, but how did you feel about it?
I liked it. Contrary to you, Sansa's never been one of like my favorite characters in the show. I like what they've done with her in the show more than I do in the books. Like, I think she's given a lot more in the show. But the scene where they're all sitting down in like the dining room and Sansa's like, what do dragons eat? I wasn't prepared for this. Like, it was just nice to see how far she's come as a character from when we first met her.
Yeah. Not being so enamored of a queen, which kind of sucks because knowing all we know, this would be the queen that she should like embrace, and whereas Cersei, she fawned all over and wanted to be like. But interestingly enough, that's a big part of why I like Sansa. I definitely am a big fan of strong female characters, but I do enjoy when a damsel in distress character starts to make that arc into to someone else. And like I said, I do think a lot of Sansa's interactions and the way she holds herself now, because she does become, she's a character that gets influenced a lot. She herself is not an influential character, I would say, but she is the recipient of being influenced upon. And I think right now she's very much in the Peter Baelish sort of character, the Sansa version of Peter Baelish. And I think, like, that's her, like, caution and weight. Yeah, how she was with Dany, though, it's wise, but frustrating because you want her to, like... But again, that's the drama of the show and all
Very
that,
much.
so... And what did you think about, like, Arya and getting to see... Like, of course, some of my favorite moments in the series were the Hound and Arya. But what did you think about their reunion? Personally, I felt it happened so fast, but...
It was very quick.
Yeah.
It was very to the point, which I guess is true to his character, as well as who Arya is now.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get more interaction from these two.
No, sure, I hope.
Being in such close proximity to each other, I think that's very likely.
And with Gendry, because I'm very much of this... Well, you go on. You say first what you thought, and then I'll say what I was
They're gonna hook up.
Yeah, okay.
In this season.
Well, going back to, I've seen a lot of theories on YouTube and stuff like that, and I've pieced together my own sort of main theory. At least my only real theory on where the show could go is mostly centered around Arya. And I do think, I've seen it mentioned before that right from the beginning, Robert wanted to join his family, the Baratheons, with the Starks. And it's interesting because it's like all full circle, but in the opposite way. It's Arya that's going to be the daughter, and it's not Joffrey the king, it's the bastard son. But those houses might, I think so too.
Still
I mean, it's
joined,
especially with the dialogue. I was wondering the whole time if they were going to go for it, and then it was like confirmed. And I will say my big theory of the show, I don't think this is a spoiler because we don't know that this is going to happen, but I always said, or I've said for a while after this past winter, of watching all these things on YouTube, my main theory is that in the end, it's going to be set up that we think somebody terrible is walking up to the throne, and is about to sit on it, and then they pull off their face to reveal that it's Arya. And I think that would be a fantastic way to kind of like bridge all of Arya's stories, the faceless men, and then of course she joins with Gendry, and that might end up being the ultimate like king and queen. Because I don't, as much as we love Jon and Dany, I have a feeling, and Jon can attest that I'm usually kind of right about these feelings, that they're probably not going to survive. I would like them to, I love them, but it's also kind of like once the show is done, it's done anyway. So in the last few minutes of the series, if a character dies in the last like 20 minutes of this series, it doesn't really matter as much in terms of a viewer watching it, because they're there till the end. It's not like the Red Wedding and those characters are done that many seasons ago, or all the many characters many characters we've lost. The only thing I think missing from this episode was I would have liked to have seen Brienne.
It was kind of interesting that we didn't see.
Well, I'm sure that's all going to be because as the episode finished up, and wrapping also things full circle, as this is the final season from the first season, the first big moment of the series was Jaime versus, and what he did to Bran, and that is kind of how this episode ended, was Jaime sneaking in, and I do think towards the beginning of the next episode, he's going to see Brienne. What did you think about Bran and Jaime, kind of that look?
I think it's interesting that they chose to end this episode very much in the same way they ended the first episode of the first season, which is the interaction between Jaime and Bran.
Absolutely.
And they started the episode on Arya watching the soldiers walk to Winterfell, and
which was very similar to the
beginning of the first episode in the first season. I think that it was very clever of the writers, the way that Bran was kind of looking at Jaime at the very end.
Well, and I'm always a big fan of, when things come to an end, there's always it's so hard to end a series that's beloved or this or that, and I feel a really good way to do that is always having full circle, where things kind of start one place and over everything eventually come back around again. And I think that's one of those things that are kind of, it brings a certain pleasure to a fan of a series, and I think that was interesting. I also do want to say though I don't know, do you know, you might, the little Lord kid who was there at the beginning who had to go off and then the Night King got him, do you know what his name is?
He's an Umber. I don't remember.
An Umber. That's good enough for this story. But this little Lord Umber kid, I remember when they said, I am really good at predicting things. I didn't predict this, but I did have this thought when they sent him off to go get more horses and wagons and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's quite a journey for this little 10-year-old to make, 10-year-old tops. So I was not altogether unsurprised to see him in the end be kind of stabbed to a wall. Do you know what the symbol was? I don't remember.
It's a recurring symbol throughout the series.
Okay. And just to see him there, but I did say, I was like, his eyes are going to open, and they did. Overall, I thought it was a really good first episode. It got right to the point. There's so many different characters you have to sort of hit all those marks with, but I think we're in for a really good season ahead of us. Are you excited about it? I know you are.
I'm excited, and I'm nervous.
Yeah, Jon was, I said that before when we started watching. I'm like, you're so excited, and he was just being really quiet, and I'm like, he's really excited because he doesn't want to say anything, and I think it's going to be good. But, what do you think so far? Did you enjoy the first episode? Do you have any theories about where it's going to go? What do you think about my Arya and the Faceless Men thing? Because I think it's good, but you tell me. Again, we're just having, this is just a little series we're doing here at 411 Pop Culture as the final season of Game of Thrones comes along. There's not going to be any big bombshell information drops. We're just going to kind of have a little dialogue after each, just two fans having a dialogue about these episodes. Well, thanks for joining me, Jon, and we'll see you next week. This is 411 Pop Culture, where real people talk about really everything. Thanks.